When the hotel maid spoke Dutch in front of a millionaire, his next request took her by surprise. In a world where power dynamics and privilege often go unnoticed, a single moment can change everything. Zoe, a hotel maid, was going about her usual shift, cleaning the pristine suites of the rich and powerful. But when she answered a call in Dutch in front of a millionaire, something unexpected happened. The man, well-dressed and arrogant, immediately perked up, and what he asked next would not only shake her, but it would challenge everything she believed about respect, race, and self-worth. Stay tuned for a story that proves sometimes it's not just about what you say, but who you're speaking to. Zoe was a hard worker, always putting in her best effort to ensure the guests at the luxury hotel were satisfied. She had been working as a maid for 3 years, starting from the bottom, and over time had earned the respect of her colleagues for her impeccable work ethic and attention to detail. The hotel was one of the most prestigious in the city, frequented by influential figures, including business moguls, celebrities, and politicians. Zoe, a black woman from a modest background, was used to being around people who were worlds apart from her. Still, she never allowed their wealth or status to define her. It was an ordinary day, until it wasn't. As she walked through the lavish hallways, pushing her cart loaded with cleaning supplies, she passed by a room where a well-dressed man was checking into the suite. His designer suit, polished shoes, and expensive cologne made him stand out from everyone else. He was a millionaire, and Zoe had seen him before, always with the same cold, detached air that screamed privilege. When the phone in her cart rang, Zoe instinctively answered it. Without thinking, she slipped into Dutch, a language she had picked up from her mother, who had emigrated from the Netherlands years ago. But the moment the man overheard her speaking in Dutch, his attention was piqued. His eyes narrowed, and he walked over, leaning against the doorway, his gaze fixated on her. "Excuse me?" he said with a raised eyebrow. "Did you just speak Dutch?" Zoe looked up, slightly startled, but she kept her composure. "Yes, I did. It's my first language." The man's expression shifted. "You don't look like someone who would speak Dutch," he commented, his tone casual. But Zoe could sense the subtle undertone of condescension. What happened next would be something Zoe would never forget. The man, noticing Zoe's hesitation, continued, "I've been to Europe many times, and I never imagined someone like you would speak my language. You're a hotel maid, aren't you?" Zoe nodded, feeling a wave of discomfort wash over her. She had dealt with stereotypes and prejudices before, people assuming that because of her job and appearance, she didn't belong in spaces like this. But there was something different about this encounter. This wasn't just a casual comment. There was an edge to his words. "Tell you what," he said, his voice changing slightly. "I've been to many hotels, but I've never met someone quite like you. I want to talk more. How about I take you out for dinner later? I'm curious about what makes you different from everyone else in this hotel." Zoe was taken aback. It wasn't just his audacity. It was the way he seemed to believe he could use his wealth to impose himself on her, to treat her as if she were a curiosity, something to be studied and discarded at will. "I'm afraid that's not possible," Zoe replied, trying to keep her composure. "I have to work." The man's expression hardened for a moment, but then he smiled. "Of course. But if you change your mind, I'll be here. I'll make sure you're not busy." Zoe walked away, but her heart raced. She couldn't help but feel the sting of his words. The way he saw her, it wasn't as a person, but as an object, a maid who could easily be replaced, someone to be used and discarded at will. As she went about her day, Zoe's thoughts swirled. She thought about the times she had been overlooked or belittled by people who thought they were better than her, simply because of her race or her job. How many times had she been spoken down to, treated as invisible? Yet here was a man, a millionaire, doing the same thing. But this time, he'd taken it a step further. Later that evening, Zoe was finishing up her shift, preparing to head home. But something inside her told her to stop by the suite where the millionaire had been staying. She didn't know why, but she needed to face him again, to take back some of the power she had felt slip away earlier. When she knocked on the door, the man opened it, his surprise evident as he saw Zoe standing before him. You again, he said, raising an eyebrow. I thought you'd be on your way home by now. I wanted to talk, Zoe said, her voice steady despite the nervous energy swirling within her. You said something earlier that bothered me. You assumed that because of my job I didn't belong here. And you assumed that just because I speak Dutch, I must be different from the other hotel staff. The man paused, taken aback by her directness. I didn't mean any offense, he started, but Zoe cut him off. You didn't mean any offense, but you still judged me. You saw my uniform, my job, and decided I wasn't worthy of being treated with respect. You see me as a maid, a servant. But I'm more than that. I'm a woman with a story, with experiences, with dreams that are just as valid as yours. The man stood silent, his gaze shifting. There was an uncomfortable silence between them, broken only by the hum of the hotel's lights. Zoe could see the shift in his eyes, a flicker of realization. You're right, he finally said, his tone quieter now. I didn't mean to disrespect you. I'm sorry. Zoe nodded, but she wasn't done yet. It's not just about you apologizing. It's about the system that lets people like you believe they can walk all over people like me. It's about the prejudice, the assumptions that we're lesser, that we're invisible. The millionaire stood there, no longer with the arrogance he had shown earlier. For the first time, Zoe saw him as just a man, one who had been confronted with his own ignorance. Zoe left the suite that evening feeling different. She had confronted the millionaire not to shame him, but to show him a mirror. She hadn't changed his views entirely, but she had planted a seed, and that was enough. In the days that followed, Zoe noticed something different in the way people treated her. It wasn't perfect, but there were moments, small, fleeting moments where she could sense a shift, a new respect, a new awareness. The story of that evening spread through the hotel staff, and soon, the tale of the black maid who stood up to a millionaire became something of a legend. It wasn't just about Zoe's bravery. It was about something larger, a reminder that racism isn't just a distant concept, but something that exists in everyday interactions, in the way we see others and the assumptions we make. Zoe knew the fight wasn't over. There would always be moments when she would be looked down upon, when people would try to make her feel small. But the next time someone tried to belittle her, she would remember that moment in the hotel suite. She had stood her ground. She had found her voice. The question remained. How many more people would have the courage to speak out against the invisible prejudices that define so much of our world?